There are a lot of Mario games. You got your traditional 2D Mario Bros, you got your Galaxies, you got your karts, and you got your tennises, and your parties, and your bad educational games, and all of these games have music in them. It can be a little overwhelming, so if you ever wanted some random geek on the internet to break down his top 20 for you, I'm your guy. And there are probably other guys that have done this way before me, but I'm doing it now. For this list, I've considered every Mario game, except for stuff like Smash Brothers, because that's not a Mario game. He's just kind of around with his friends. But there's like Link and Snake and not. I'm usually a top 10 kind of guy myself, but this franchise is so huge that I decided to make it top 20 split into 2 videos. So here's the first part. I hope you enjoy.
This is a short little guy, but it's such a treat. This game was made by Square, and obviously they're well known for their Final Fantasy Victory fanfares, and I find this to be a Mario-tastic version of one of those. It makes level grinding a bit more enjoyable. You can have a little dance party after every win. I'm sure people will be mad that this is so low on my list, but I try to remove as much nostalgia as possible when I rank these things. I think if you did the same, you'd find that the Mario games have a lot more to offer. That being said, this is a great theme. It's very memorable and makes great use of the limited sound resources of the NES. It's so easy on the ears that you don't mind how often you hear it throughout the game, or how often it comes back in newer games for Nintendo to hit you with a swift kick of nostalgia. This track accompanies one of the rare moments in the Mario franchise that makes you really feel. The twinkling provides an appropriate atmosphere to start with, and then the plunky nature of the following material fits so well with that as the twinkling moves to the background. It's a great track to encompass the whole journey you just went on, and it's one of the first tracks that comes to mind when I think of signature Yoko Shimomura. Though there's a lot that separates the 2 games, including time and composers, this music reminds me a bit of what we'd get later with Super Mario Galaxy. I promise this list won't just be a Mario RPG list, but I just had to include this one. The sounds provide the tropical atmosphere, and it's so different than anything else you hear in the game. The uniqueness reflects all of the stuff that is exclusive to this location. This track makes for such a treat when you finally get to this fun little area of the game. Rosalina is my favorite Mario character. She's one of the few post-Mario RPG characters with a backstory that makes you feel some feels. And I think they did a wonderful job weaving her story in with the more lighthearted nature of the traditional Mario Saves Peach storyline. This track is reminiscent of music you might hear from a toy in a crib, but the twinkly harmonics give it that extraterrestrial feel unique to the Galaxy games, and the result is this calm, soothing track. The music for the Galaxy games was so well written and recorded, I can't imagine the games without the epic orchestral scoring. The orchestration here works so well, it has a clear melody that players can latch right onto, and extra flurries like in the harp are there to please the more in-depth listener. And there's no shortage of orchestral colors here either. This track reminds me of a simpler version of Dancing Mad from Final Fantasy VI, which was that game's final boss theme. It's got the attitude a final boss track needs, but has enough of a dance-like rhythmic character to make it feel right at home in a Mario game. There's another track that plays during the final phase of the smithy fight, but I've always preferred this one. It has a bit more of a climactic feeling instead of an intense one like the second phase. This is one of the great jazzy tracks in the Mario franchise. The consistent rhythm allows the soloist to go nuts over it without distracting from the race at hand, and said soloist does a great job on this. There's a lot to take in with that solo, and it's virtuosic without being distracting, the mark of a great solo in my opinion. The track even changes a little when you go underwater. There's a great video on the sax solo of this track on 8-Bit Music Theory, and no, they didn't ask me to plug that video, I just think it's great. So go check that out for an in-depth look at the theory behind the sax in this track. This is a great example of music for a looming threat. The snare keeps up that forward momentum, but the delayed attack on the other parts, which you can hear especially well in the lower synth, gives an ominous complement to that. The melody kinda reminds me of a darker take on the pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa thing that you hear before every level. That might be a weird thing to say, but like if you listen hard enough you'll get what I mean. Or maybe you won't, but whatever, I don't care. This is everything I said about the Egg Planet music turned up a notch, in my humble opinion. An easy on the ears melody over a flurry of string notes over an even flurry of guitar strums, and it just grows and grows and grows. Again, I'm just so happy with the orchestral direction that the Galaxy games took.
And there are 10 Mario tracks that I think are pretty great, but maybe not quite as great as I think the 10 in the next video are, so be sure to check that video out. I'll catch you then.